Okay, so get ready for this one. We're going on a deep dive today into some news stories. They are so strange you'll think they're fake. Like, seriously.
Yeah, these are the kind of stories that make you wonder what's real and what's not.
We've got it all today. Dancing aliens, chickens doing yoga.
A cat that stops an entire town.
Alvin, honestly, where do they even find this stuff?
Well, that's the beauty of the internet. You can find pretty much anything if you know where to look.
That's true.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating to me is that even though these stories sound totally bonkers, there's often something deeper there, you know, something that tells us about ourselves, about human nature, about how we make sense of the world around us, even when it's completely nuts.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to explore today.
So let's start with that dancing alien, shall we? This one comes from Texas, where a farmer claims he saw an alien grooving in his field.
Oh, yeah, this one's a classic.
And the best part is the detail that Padilla and Ashley gave in their report. They say the alien's moves were so smooth, so sensual, the farmer wasn't sure whether to run for his life or ask for dance lessons.
That's hilarious. But it also taps into something really interesting about how we as humans process the unknown. We see something we can't explain, and our brains try to make sense of it.
It's like our brains are wired to find patterns, even when there aren't any.
Exactly. And sometimes those patterns lead us to some pretty wild conclusions, like dancing aliens.
Right. But maybe this farmer was just seeing things, or maybe it was his imagination running away with him.
It's possible. But either way, the story raises some thought-provoking questions about how we interpret the world around us, about the power of eyewitness accounts, and of course, about the enduring fascination with extraterrestrial life.
Okay, so let's move on to our next story. This one takes us to Scotland, where a group of chickens are apparently doing yoga.
You can't make this stuff up.
I know, right? But according to our sources, these chickens are getting their zen on. Doing downward dog. Holding tree pose.
I bet they're really good at the rooster pose.
Probably. But seriously, this story is a great example of something called anthropomorphism, which is basically when we attribute human characteristics or emotions to animals.
Right, and we do it all the time. We see a dog wagging its tail and we think it's happy. We see a cat sleeping in a sunbeam and we think it's content.
But the reality is we don't really know what's going on in their heads. We're just projecting our own feelings and experiences onto them.
And sometimes that can be harmless, but other times it can lead us to misunderstand animal behavior and make decisions that aren't in their best interests.
That's a good point. But you know what I find particularly funny about this story?
What's that?
Well, Padilla and Ashley actually interviewed the chickens. And the chickens claimed that the yoga was helping them lay better eggs.
Oh, no way. They really put that in the report.
Yes, they did. But the rooster was very skeptical. He said it was all a bunch of nonsense.
Of course he did. Well, you know what they say. You can't teach an old rooster new tricks.
Okay, so for our final story today, we're going to Italy, where a cat has become a local legend.
This is the one about the cat who stopped traffic, right?
Yeah. This cat decided to take a nap in the middle of the road.
Classic cat move.
Right. And instead of honking their horns or trying to shoo him away, the townspeople just waited patiently for him to wake up. They even brought him a cappuccino and a chair from a nearby cafe.
Now that's what I call Italian hospitality.
I know, right? And when the cat finally woke up, he just stretched, yawned, and let out a little meow, which the locals interpreted as, "I'm the boss here."
And let's be honest, most cats probably think they are the boss anyway.
Whoa, absolutely. But this story, I think, goes beyond just cats being cats. It shows us how different cultures can respond to unexpected situations. In some places, people might get really angry about a cat holding up traffic. But in this Italian town, it was like everyone just embraced the absurdity of the situation.
And maybe that's a lesson we can all learn from. Sometimes it's okay to just slow down, appreciate the little moments of weirdness, and go with the flow.
So there you have it. From a dancing alien in Texas, to yoga practicing chickens in Scotland, to a traffic stopping cat in Italy. We've covered a lot of ground today.
And I think what all these stories have in common is that they remind us to look for the unexpected, to find the humor in the absurd, and to never underestimate the power of a good story.
I couldn't agree more. So next time you come across a news story that seems too strange to be true, don't just dismiss it. Take a moment to think about what it might be telling you. About the world, about yourself, about the crazy, wonderful tapestry of life.
And who knows, maybe you'll even find yourself inspired to dance with an alien, do some yoga with a chicken, or share a cappuccino with a cat.
That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. All right, everybody, welcome back. Glad to have you. We're diving deep today. And, well, you know how it is? Sometimes you're scrolling through Instagram and bam, video call.
Out of the blue.
Yeah. And you look and it's India.
Someone from India. We've all seen it, right? It's like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a real head scratcher. Like, why is this a thing?
That's what we're going to try to figure out today. So we've got two sources that we're going to be looking at today. One is this is interesting. It looks like a piece of a conversation between these two folks named Ashley and Potier.
Okay.
And it's in Portuguese, so we've had it translated, of course.
Right.
And they seem to be just as perplexed by these calls as we are.
Naturally.
The second source is a little bit strange.
Oh, these are always fun.
Yeah, well, it's a document titled Nova Nota, but when we opened it up,
Nothing.
it's completely blank.
So that's a mystery in itself.
Yeah, so we've got like a double mystery going on today.
Right.
But let's start with Ashley and Potier, see what they have to say.
Sounds good. So they're talking about this, and they're throwing out these theories, and they're kind of funny, actually. And it's like they're trying to make light of this whole situation, but they're saying, maybe it's like a new kind of digital yoga.
Digital yoga.
Yeah, connecting with random souls across the world. Or maybe it's like some kind of silent protest against...
Like surrender.
Yeah. Like everybody's got their phone on Do Not Disturb, and this is their way of like...
Fighting back.
Yeah, just kind of like testing those boundaries.
Interesting.
Or they even said maybe it's like virtual namaste.
Yeah.
Like reaching across the continents spiritually.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I buy into any of those.
Right.
But it's funny.
It's creative.
It's definitely creative. But what do you think? Is there any weight to any of those suggestions?
I think they're fun to consider.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I think they might be oversimplifying it a little bit.
Yep.
I think there's a lot more to unpack here. I mean, this phenomenon really highlights how differently people communicate in different cultures. What might seem intrusive or even rude in one culture might be totally normal in another. We have to keep that in mind.
That's a really good point, actually. And it kind of reminded me of how Ashley and Potier were talking about how maybe we should just be more open-minded about these calls.
Right.
They're saying, like, would you get offended if somebody called a pigeon a rat with wings?
Okay, I see where they're going with that.
Yeah, it's like, who cares?
Right. It's about perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a good point. It's easy to forget that what we consider polite or rude isn't universal. And that's especially true online. We don't have those same social cues that we rely on in person so much.
And Instagram, it's like, it's made for connecting with people all over the world.
Absolutely.
But that means we're going to run into these differences
You said it.
in how we communicate.
Instagram, with all of its features and algorithms, it's almost like a digital melting pot.
Yeah.
And while it's great connecting with people all over,
Oh, yeah.
it also presents this unique challenge of understanding
Absolutely.
and respecting different communication styles.
Totally. And, it makes me wonder about our second source here, this Nova Nota document.
The blank one.
The blank one. Like, what do we do with that?
Well, it's definitely a puzzle. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, it's taunting us almost with its emptiness.
But what were they going to put there?
Right. It really leaves us with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Maybe it was supposed to be a placeholder for future research,
Okay.
a draft they never finished, or could it be a
Yeah.
symbol for how much we still don't know
Ooh, that's good.
about this whole thing? It's a reminder that sometimes the more we dig,
Yeah.
the more questions we uncover.
It's true.
We don't always find the answers we're looking for.
Yeah. That's kind of a profound way of looking at it, though. Like, it's okay to not know everything
Right.
and to keep asking those questions.
Exactly. It's about staying curious and open-minded, even when it's frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, look, we covered a lot today.
We did.
We talked about those mysterious video calls from India.
Yep.
We had some fun with Ashley and Potier's theories.
Those are pretty good.
And we even grappled with a blank document
We really did.
that told us nothing.
But maybe everything.
But maybe everything. But, if we're taking anything away from this today, it's that we got to stay curious.
Absolutely.
We got to be open to different ways of communicating, and we got to be okay with not having all the answers.
I think that's well said. It's important, in this world that's so connected, to approach the unknown with curiosity and an open mind. And remember, there's always more to learn.
Always. So to all of you listening out there,
Yes.
here's something to think about. What do you think is behind these calls? What would you do if you got one?
good question.
It really makes you think about how we navigate this crazy digital world we live in.
It does.
And until next time, keep exploring and keep those questions coming.
Until next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, so get this, right? We're going deep on Titanic today.
Oh, really? The ship.
But yeah, but not like the actual boat sinking.
Yeah.
More like the movie.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and hold on, it gets better. So like this all started because of this this clip, right? It was from, get this, a Brazilian news program.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're like going off about Titanic, but like from a feminist perspective. Kind of blew my mind, so we had to dive into this.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so basically they're saying Jack, Leo, he's like the ultimate alpha male stereotype.
I can see that. Yeah.
Right? Like sacrificing himself all dramatically. And the Brazilian program, they're saying this just plays into all these like old school ideas about men,
It definitely fits into a lot of the classic tropes you see in film.
Totally. And get this, they were saying how Jack, like, he didn't even tree ride to share the door.
You mean the floating door?
Yeah.
Dick?
Like, come on, dude. Could have at least had a conversation about it, right?
Right.
They were calling it out as like not a true partnership.
Yeah. And that's a really important point they're bringing up, actually. Like, even in a life or death situation, this idea of consent and respecting someone's autonomy is huge. Jack just taking charge, making that call for Rose, kind of paternalistic if you think about it.
Mm. Yeah, I see what you mean.
It pushes that whole men know best kind of narrative,
Yeah, for sure.
Even when it's about a woman's own survival, it's like the man gets to decide.
Okay, but can we talk about the door for a sec? Like the whole could they both fit thing?
Ah, yes. The age-old debate.
Right. The internet has gone back and forth on that one forever.
It's become a real pop culture phenomenon.
But honestly, I think what's more interesting than whether they physically could fit is like the symbolism.
Exactly. We're getting deeper now.
Yeah, did Jack have to be the hero? Could they have like flipped the script?
It makes you think, right? Like, what if the movie challenged that whole damsel in distress thing?
And okay, this is wild. The Brazilian show even brought up Ray's throwing the necklace back in the ocean at the end.
The heart of the ocean.
Yep. And they were like, hey, she could just toss Jack overboard instead. Dark humor, but it makes you think, right?
It definitely highlights the question of Rose's agency, like she had choices, maybe?
Right. What if she had been the one to make a different call?
It challenges that whole narrative of romantic sacrifice we're so used to seeing.
Totally. Oh, and get this, the Brazilian program, they end by talking about how Rose learns to swim.
At the end, or like...
Yeah, like in their version, I guess. And they said she builds a raft out of empowerment.
Wow, I love that. That's powerful imagery right there.
It's like they rewrote the whole ending.
That's what's so cool about feminist theory, though. It's not just about critiquing the old stuff, but imagining new possibilities.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's about reclaiming those narratives,
Totally. So we've gone pretty deep on this whole Titanic thing today, looking at it through this feminist lens, right?
We've talked about gender roles, agency, storytelling. It's really fascinating to see how much depth there is to unpack.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with this question, right? What if Rose did save herself? Maybe even save Jack too. What would that say about like how we view men and women? The stories we tell about love and sacrifice?
I think that's a really good question to consider. Thanks for diving into this with me today. It's been a thought-provoking conversation.
Absolutely. Until next time.